G'day guys, it's John from theproductivegarden.com, and today I'm just going to show you the raised beds that we're making and how I'm making them. Because I live on a slope block, I have to build them up on one side a bit. Basically that's so that the soil doesn't run down to one end of the garden bed. I want the top of the garden bed to be level. And I'll show you the few that we've built so far, and then I've got one that I'm building today, and I'll show you how I build them and how I make sure that they're level. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so you can see there's one there with the netting over it. I've got kale and broccoli and kohlrabi and Brussels sprouts in there, and also got some onions here. I had carrot seeds planted in there, but they didn't do too well. They didn't really sprout. I think there just wasn't enough sun for them there, and garlic around the outside. Got another one here with lettuce, red Swiss chard, celery, and snow peas in there, and a bit of garlic in there as well. And here we've got pak choy, more kale, cauliflower, more garlic in there as well. And this is the old veggie garden, which, because I haven't been doing anything in here, I've just let the weeds grow in there. I haven't worried about that too much, but it's time to build the fourth veggie garden, and so I have to clear this veggie garden away, or the fencing of it, and just tidy it up a bit. So that's what I'm doing right now. And you can see here from one end of the garden, it's basically just one sleeper width high down to this end of the garden. We're two sleeper widths high, and that's to keep it level so that the dirt doesn't all run down to one end of the garden. Alright, we'll get this area clear, and then I'll show you what I do to build these raised beds and to get them level. Okay, I'll get on with that. Okay, so I've cleaned up the area where this raised garden's going to go, so let's have a look at that. Rightio, so this is the area here. We're next to what I call the number 3 bed, our third bed. Got our other 2 beds there. Okay, so what I've done, basically I've just pulled down the fencing of the garden, taking the bird netting off to clear that area. I have a little remnant bit of garlic there, which I will carefully dig up. I'll just put it in a pot temporarily, and when I've got this garden bed finished, I'll plant it in there, so hopefully it can continue on without too much transplant shock. Okay, and I've just roughly, with wooden stakes, just marked out where the garden's going to go. Okay, so what I've got to do now, I've just got to level off particularly this top bit area here, just get it a bit flat. Okay, and that's basically so that I can start with that bit of that wood there. That's like the top level, I call it, and that's basically where I get my reference from. I'll reference it. I'm 850 millimeters away from the corner of that garden bed. Okay, and I forget how far it was, but anyway, I'm a certain distance away from the fence line as well. So when I get that corner set, I'll get when I get this level first, I'll get that corner set there, and then just make sure that that first sleeper is in place properly, and then reference all my other sleepers for the garden bed off that. So I'll get started in leveling that bit out. Okay, so here we are. We've got this first garden sleeper leveled and in place where it's going to go. Now I've got this one 925 millimeters away from this garden, because I want the beds themselves to be 850 meters apart, and this garden sleeper here is 75 millimeters wide. Now in the US and places that use inches, 1 inch is about 2.5 centimeters, so 75 mil is 3 inches wide. Okay, so what I've used for this is hardwood, just plain untreated hardwood. Don't like using treated pine because it's got the arsenic in it. These other ones there, some old sleepers that I had in a retaining wall. And some of our noisy kookaburras having a laugh. There you go, there they are, up in the tree, having a bit of a laugh. Anyway, back to building garden beds. Okay, and these ones here, even though they're painted, I know that they were painted with non-toxic paint, or not lead-based paint anyway. So I was pretty happy to use them, and they were free. But I've run out of used materials, so I've got to buy some. So I sourced a cheap local source of this hardwood timber. Okay, so what I've got to do now, I've got that one in place. That is where it will stay. It's 9.2 metres from the fence. That's where they all are, and they're all 850 millimetres apart. Now, you might ask, why 850 millimetres apart? Well, basically, that allows my lawnmower to fit easily up and down between each bed. And 2.9 metres from the fence, well, that's what suited me for the first one, and I want to plant fruit and nut trees between the garden beds and the fence, so 2.9 metres it was. Okay, so we'll get on with this now. Now that we've got this one levelled, we'll get this one in place, find out where its level's got to be. I may have to build it up with another bit of wood at one end. That's why I've got the offcuts from these. These were 2.4 metres, and I had them cut down to 3 lengths at 1.8, which will be that, what I'll call the header board there. And we've also got these two here that will be the foot of the bed. I've got 2 because I'll probably have to build this up to two heights of the sleeper. Okay, and then we've got 1.90, I think it was 1.90 metres. Anyway, it was to allow for the 75 mil at each end, so that it ends up the interior distance of the garden bed ends up being 1.8 metres. Yeah, I can't do the maths right now. I've done it once, and that'll do. Okay, so we'll get this one in place, find out where we've got to build it up to level it, and then we get this fella in place, and then the last bit is getting the foot of the bed in place, getting those two in place, and we can screw them all together and fill it with dirt. So let's do that. Righto, so this sleeper here, I've got that level and in place where it needs to be. This one over here is a little bit different. It needs to be built up a fair bit, and I'll show you how I do that. Righto, so what I've got to do to build this garden sleeper up to be level is firstly get in the spot where it's got to go, and we can see with the spirit level that's how high it needs to go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix to it one of the offcuts that I got when I got these cut at the timber mill. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll get some bits of wood. I'll use this bit in the middle, and I'll just use these little bits on the side and just fix it together. Now I know if you wanted structural integrity, these aren't going to be terribly strong, but all they've got to do is just fix it in place while I'm putting the garden together. Once they're in place, they'll be screwed to the board that's in the middle of them, the sleeper that's in the middle, and that'll basically hold them together. Plus this one will be in the ground a little bit, which will hold it in place at this end as well. So now I'll screw these together, and then we'll show you what I need to do to get it level. Righto, so now that we've got these all screwed together, what we need to do is stand this sleeper up with the little offcut attached and get everything all level out. What I'm going to have to do is dig a little bit out here, because like I said, this corner will be in the ground a bit, and this bit here will probably be in the ground a little bit as well. So we just need to stand things up, find out how much we need to dig things out by, and dig it out, play with it and get it level. So we'll do that now. Okay, now when we dig it out, we need to get the end that's going against the header board nice and level with the header board, and just get it the distance it is going to be away. And what we're going to do is, you'll see the board will automatically mark where we've got to start digging, because we don't want to start digging right up here if we only need to dig here. So that's the mark, that's where I'll start digging, and I'll get things dug out. So hopefully we can get this, or not hopefully, we will get this nice and level. Okay, I'll get on to that. Okay, now I've got that level and I've got it 101.8 metres from the other sleeper on the internal distance. So now what I have to do is get one of these sleepers, and I'll have to do the same thing. I'll get a bit of the offcut like I have done here, and I'll screw it to one of those sleepers, because I'm not going to need both sleepers to do the whole distance there. So I may as well save myself one sleeper. That's less wood I have to buy next time. So I'll fix up that sleeper with a bit of offcut, and we'll get it all level and show you how we screw them together. Okay, I'll get on to that. Now I've got all the sleepers in place and level, it's time to screw them all together. So what I need to do, the poor little cordless drill won't quite cut it with this hardwood, so I need to get my power drill to work, and we're going to be drilling big, what I call coach screws in through the ends of the boards here, so they all get held together. So we'll do that. Righto. Now what we've got to do is drill these in here. Now I've got 150mm what I call coach screws or batten screws. 150mm is about 6 inches. So these are 75. We want it to go in at least a 75, so we get a good deal of bite into the wood as well. We don't want these things coming apart too easily. So it's pretty easy. I've drilled into this wood before, so I know that I can just put this screw in without having to pre-drill. So we'll put one in the bottom. There's one. And two. Now I'll just do that for the rest of the garden, and then what we need to do is fill it up with dirt and get our veggies planted in there. So I'll finish off screwing all these sleepers together. Righto, so that's the last screw in there. Now what we have to do is fill the garden up with soil, and we'll get our crops planted and we'll be off and growing. So I'll start filling it up and we'll come back when I'm all finished. Righto. Alright there, so we've got the veggie garden finished now, this raised bed. Okay, so there it is, all filled with soil ready to go. Okay, so that's how I make my raised beds. Some people will use posts that go into the ground to secure it, but I just basically have the frame and pretty much just have it sitting there. Alright, so that's it for now. I'm going to get some plants into this raised bed before it gets too dark, and until next time, happy productive gardening. Bye.